Good evening, everyone. I apologize, our gavel is in for repairs, so I had to use my fist. It was very embarrassing, but you've all witnessed that with me. We call this meeting of the City of Fort Walton Beach City Council to order tonight. If you do have an electronic device, please silence it, mute it, or turn it off. If you will stand with us, if you're able, for an invocation by Minister Ben Savage, Worship Arts Trinity United Methodist Church, and then stay standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Everyone, let us pray. Gracious and wise God, we gather here tonight to serve the people of our city with faithfulness and care. We invite your presence into this meeting and ask that you guide our thoughts and actions as we consider important decisions for our community. We pray especially for those we honor tonight, the Lady Vikings softball team and our city employees, whose dedication and achievements enrich our lives and inspire our efforts. Bless them and all those who serve our city with diligence and integrity. As we address matters of housing, safety, and growth, grant us insight to see the needs of our neighbors and the courage to act in ways to build upon our city's welfare. In all of our discussions, help us be mindful of those voices often go unheard, and to ensure that justice and compassion shape our choices. Bless this council, the mayor, and every person who joins us tonight. May the work we do together reflect our commitment to the common good and bring about flourishing for all of the Fort Walton Beach area. We ask this in your holy name. Amen.
Amen. Actually, if we could have the ladies softball team just come on up here and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, that would be great. We know you're good at winning state championships. How good are you at pledging allegiance? Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Excellent job, ladies. If y'all just want to stay right up here, we're going to honor you here in just a second. If we could get approval of the agenda from the council. With one slight change here, or maybe several, I want to move item 13.1 to right after the consent agenda. We're going to remove item 7.4. And I believe that's all, if somebody wants to approve that.
So moved to approve.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Jeter, seconded by Councilman Merrill to approve the agenda as changed. Any additional comments?
Yes, sir.
All right, seeing none, please vote, Council. Oh, we don't have Mr. Walker here. I see. All right. Okay. Does pass 6-0. That moves us to proclamations. So the reason many of you are here tonight, we're also proud of the reason that we get to do this. The 2025 Lady Viking softball team made history by reaching the state Final Four for the first time ever and then winning it all. With back-to-back wins on May 22nd and May 23rd, they clinched the first state title in school history. Seniors Alex Hall, Tatum Tolliver, and Hallie Smith even gave up their graduation ceremony to play. Their dedication, teamwork, and grit brought pride to the entire community, and that is why June 10th, 2025 is officially Lady Viking Softball Championship Day in the city of Fort Walton Beach. We have this proclamation to present to y'all as well. If council, if y'all could all stand up and we can get a picture taken with these ladies. Here, one of you guys hold this.
Oh.
It looks better if you guys have it.
Coach.
Yeah, Coach, get in here. Come on.
I was trying to sneak a picture of it.
You're hiding. All right. Okay, good. Right up here.
That's going to be a good
All
one.
right. Thank you.
That's all. That's all. Yeah. Just give it a close up. super proud of what y'all did. Thank you for being here tonight. All right, that brings us to employee recognitions, and I believe Chief Beige has a recognition. Is that correct? Chief Beige has been kicked out of the room, but is making his way back in. Chief Beige, whenever you're ready.
I am ready. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
We were also going to present an award to Seth Williams tonight, but unfortunately he couldn't make it. If some of you may have seen the press release, he talked the person off the bridge. It took him about 40 minutes to successfully talk a person off the bridge. So we're going to award him a life-saving award at the department in the next few days. But tonight I'd like to recognize Donna Durrell. Donna, if you could please come up. So Donna Durrell was a senior police officer and detective with the City of Fort Walton Beach Police Department. She was a trail setter and a blazer in the industry for women in policing. And she came to us probably a few months ago with a very sad story. Her house was burglarized and then it was actually lit on fire. And she lost her retired ID from the City of Fort Walton Beach, which we were able to replace her. But she also lost the plaque that they presented to her upon her separation from the city. So we wanted to formally present her with her plaque again for her dedication to the City of Fort Walton Beach and for everything she's done for our community and for the trail setting that you were as a female in law enforcement. So Donna, I'd like to congratulate you on your years of service.
Thank you.
And present you this plaque.
Thank you very much.
And not only did Donna serve with us, she also had a very short stint with the Sheriff's Office. And Commissioner Paul Mixon has also come down to recognize and be part of this moment as we presented Donna with her plaque. Donna, I don't know if there's a word or two you'd like to say for us?
It's been a long time coming. I appreciate it very, very much. I appreciate the plaque and the recognition. And all I can say is thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Chief Beige. That moves us to the consent agenda, and before we approve that, I will make the notation that we are going to remove item 7.4 as Chief Beige needs some additional time with that. We also are going to amend on page 3 of the attached consent agenda, the second paragraph, changing the words actual to budgeted and budgeted to actual at the request of Mr. Walker. Well, it's on the actual attached consent agenda, Mr. Berry. Yeah, and it's just some wording, some language that Mr. Walker asked if Ms. Barnes would clean up from the transcription to better reflect the intent of what he meant to say. So if anyone would like to approve that item. All right.
Second.
Got a motion from Councilman Walker to approve the consent agenda, seconded by Councilman Gita. Any additional comments? Seeing none, council please vote. The consent agenda does pass unanimously. That moves us to item 13.1, which we've moved up. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm so sorry. My bad. Mr. Davis has some employee recognitions. I got all excited and Chief Beige was doing his thing and
time doing this, so I don't want to butcher it, but we have
We gotta
June
get-
and July this month. Thank you. So we have Fire Services Driver Engineer Samuel Signer. Signer.
He's not here, and Corey Hill's on top. So we have right there.
Is Corey Hill one and the same as Justin Hill?
Justin.
Okay. And our last one is Fire Services Driver Engineer Scott Caskey with 10 years of service. All right.
Let's go.
Show your thing. We have, let's see, Engineering and Utilities Street Maintenance, Mr. David Henderson, foreman for 15 years.
David?
Not here. All right, next time I need to figure out who's here first. Recreation and Cultural Services Golf Operations, Stephen Ashmore, golf course.
Hey, Steven!
15 years. 15. Very nice.
Our first meeting with our new city manager and I, totally leave him out. Sorry about that. I'll get better. All right, that moves us now to item 13.1, which we've moved directly up here from later in the meeting to be right now. So, Mr. Fassetti, I believe you are presenting.
Sure, yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. So I will open this item to provide a brief background and then turn it over to Mr. Burns as well to continue on with the discussion. So as you all may recall, this was an item that came up back in April regarding this reverter clause, this reverter interest property that's owned by Greater Peace Missionary Baptist Church. And this came up due to some of the Workforce Housing Fund and that discussion about the workforce housing that they plan to develop on the property. And so we've kind of worked with Mr. Burns on this process going back over the last year regarding the reverter interest on this property that the city holds on it. And so at that April meeting, there was direction for city manager and city attorney at that time to work further to investigate this and work with the church to resolve or find these issues and bring an item back to council. So there's a staff report here, and I will turn it over to Mr. Burns to provide some of the kind of next steps in that process from April till today. Thank you.
And I'll kind of actually start with the end and work my way back on what's being asked tonight. So the ask and the staff recommendation is to either approve or deny two separate things. One, the workforce housing funding agreement and the quitclaim deed admitting the reverter clause. If just for some reason y'all wanted to make changes or didn't like the workforce house funding agreement, there still would be the second ask in there on to recommend approving the quitclaim deed admitting the reverter clause. So it's important for me to point that out because it's really two separate issues that got intertwined at the April meeting. And y'all might remember at that April meeting, the ask from the church was to have the reverter clause removed. Their workforce housing project then got brought up, and there was some good, robust discussion about that during the meeting. And it sort of concluded the discussion directing myself and the interim city manager to go meet with the church to see if we could maybe work out some sort of agreement, because there was a lot of concern about possibly the money that was in the workforce housing funding that's been earmarked for the church sitting unused for a very extended period of time. We did meet with Mr. Sabby Williams and his board back in I think it's less than a week or roughly a week after that meeting. It was myself, Mr. Dennis Reeves, Mr. Sabby Williams, and 3 board members. We met for a couple hours, kind of hashed things out, and ultimately then we had some discussions with their attorney afterwards to kind of nail down the language. And that's what the workforce housing funding agreement that's being presented to you tonight kind of represents, the culmination of those discussions and negotiations. And what it does is it sets a time frame of 1 year from today's date, if y'all do approve of it, for the church to get their development order in place. Then they still get 2 full years from today's date to get their development agreement in place. And we did put some provisions in there, like there's a hurricane, there's a force majeure provision in there. So let's just say they get their development order in place, but a hurricane hits next year. and they're on the cusp of being ready to get their development agreement, there maybe could be some extension days on that. And there's some other sort of standard provisions like that in the agreement. The agreement, though, does do a lot of reciting of the history of the reverter clause. And so that's kind of the second issue, because they can't develop their property unless the reverter clause ultimately, at the end of the day, is released. And they can't get it released to get the project going, because the project would, in its current form, be a violation of the reverter clause. And so they can't get any actual financing to go vertical or to even get kind of pre-planning stage going on that. So I did a lot of research actually after our meeting, because there's been a lot of kind of speculation as to why the reverter clause was put on the property back in 1995. Federal law does require reverter clauses to be put on properties that are purchased with CDBG funds and then transferred to private entities. The federal law only requires the reverter clauses to be for a 5-year period, though. However, a local board who decides to convey those properties can exercise discretion to put a lengthier period of time if they feel it's necessary on the property. And in this situation, like, it was never apparent as to why they elected to necessarily do a perpetual reverter clause, other than the fact that they did say in the reverter clause that the church could use the property for either a parking lot or for the stated use, which CDBG funds are supposed to be used for, which is low-income housing. And so what we kind of concluded was, most likely, if you go back through the trail of all the deeds beginning in 1980, that the city purchased the two lots at issue with $45,000, $578 of CDBG funds. In 1995, the church actually transferred, the church's sister entity, but they are basically the same party, transferred to the city 2 lots that were valued at that point in time on the sales price stated on the property appraiser's website of $22,500. And so on the books, that leaves a $23,000 and $78 balance in CDBG funds. And so from what we could kind of figure out, most likely the city attorney, Jerry Miller, who was actually my predecessor out in Destin, he's a very meticulous, very careful guy, ultra conservative. He most likely advised his board to not be comfortable with doing the standard 5-year reverter clause at that period of time, because he probably was worried potentially of maybe an audit by the federal government regarding use of CDBG funds. And I think after discussions with the church, and kind of, I think anyone can kind of think this common sense, they probably never had any thought that they would change the use of their property from the church, but times do change. And so now that particular church, eventually that branch will be shut down. And they didn't think that was going to happen in 1995. They actually needed more parking in 1995. And so they had no issue at that period of time doing a perpetual reverter, because they planned on using it forever as a parking lot. But so now we're here today, and there was an argument that I presented by their attorney on Friday. He actually memorialized an argument he had made to me about a month ago about the equitable exchanges of property, and I forwarded that to y'all this morning because it had gone to my spam folder on Friday. That's the argument they made to say, hey, why can't we get the property released now? Because we did exchange like similar like-kind property back in 1995, and I kept having to go back to the fact that there are $23,078 or $23,078 of CDBG funds that were used that were never actually received back from the to the city. And the city did approve of really the parking lot, which is not really an approved use under CDBG funds. And so, but what the city could do is they could amend the reverter clause today, if y'all do approve of the form of the deed, starting that 5-year timeline, the normal 5-year timeline that you would get on per federal law, or they could have the option of buying out immediately or at any time before those 5 years are up for $23,000 or $23,078. They could basically just buy it. So tomorrow they could come and present a check to the city if y'all do approve of this deed, the reverter clause be released. The city would have to deposit that money in their CDBG fund account and use that for CDBG purposes, but the city would have no risk at that point in time of any sort of misuse of federal funds. Or the 5 years can go by and the property, the reverter clause will go away, And so those are two options that are in the deed that they would have if y'all do approve of it tonight. And the third option, which I think is the more important one to y'all, more important one to them, which is probably more likely what's going to happen, which is what will be important to their bank, is it says as soon as they get their development agreement approved of, then the reverter clause will, at that point in time, also disappear and no longer be an encumbrance on the property. And so that's an incentive, obviously, for them, along with the workforce housing agreement, which does say they lose their funding if they don't have a development agreement within 2 years. At the end of the day, they have three options. There's an agreement for you that gives a 2-year timeline. And I believe, do you have anything to add Jeff, to that? Yeah. I think it's kind of for you. We're here to answer any questions about kind of what went on. The memo gets very dry on the history of how we came up with the funding and all that. I can provide more details if y'all want on that.
I sincerely appreciate the explanation and the options that you've given to the council. We'll start with questions. Questions only for Mr. Burns. Anyone on the council? Mr. Merrill.
Could a single motion be made with all three of those? Like we'll start the 5 years, you can buy it out, or if you get the development order and agreement in that timeline, could we present all three as one?
Yes, because actually the workforce housing funding agreement that's being presented to you includes as an attachment the proposed deed. And so if you just make a motion to approve of that agreement, I would also say that we approve of both the proposed agreement and the proposed deed. Y'all can make one motion to do all that. That includes the three options in there.
Anyone else with a question? Councilman Schmidt.
To piggyback off of that, does this have any language if that time expires without the development order? What happens with that $600,000?
It goes back to the city council's discretion. I think initially we didn't cover exactly what happened. They lose their right, obviously, to the money if they don't meet their deadlines. But I think it would be a policy decision for the council at that point in time, because y'all now have $600,000 back to either use for workforce housing funding or something else. That's what y'all look at.
But that's what's baked in here.
It's baked into there.
If the time is elapsed where that development was not executed,
correct.
That funding it's very clear on what happens with that funding.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Ms. Riley, you had a question?
My question would be to council. So if you take all three of the options and combine, as Councilman Merrill has indicated, could we do that? So, seeing the fact that, okay, the $23,000, you could pay that at any time. The 5 year, you can wait it out, 5 year, and then the reverter clause is pretty much goes away. Third option, I wasn't really clear. I'm trying to figure out what would be the best option. Take
So
out three.
the third option is their development agreement actually gets approved per the workforce housing agreement, and so they've gotten through the whole steps. And so let's say it's 18 months from now, maybe 20 months from now, maybe 12 months from now, they actually get both their development order and their development agreement in place. There's actual verbiage in the quitclaim deed that refers to the workforce housing funding agreement and approval of the development agreement.
Right.
And that would act as an action that results in the reverter clause expiring.
So is there an extension on that? Because, I know that development order, it was from the initial, from the inception of it, that's been what, 2 years? Year and a half? Is there an extension for that 2 year or?
They actually have not received a development order yet. So what we agreed to in this workforce housing funding agreement is if y'all do approve of today, they have 12 full months from today's date, unless like a hurricane, it's a force majeure event, which they would give an extension. But they have 12 full months to get their development order in place. Then they have another additional 12 full months after that. Well, actually, they have more than that. So if it only takes them 6 months to get their development order, they would still have 18 months to actually get their development agreement in place. And because, like for the housing authority, they're, I believe, Quick District Eddie, correct me if I'm wrong, I think they took over a year to get from DO to development agreement, or about a year, right? So it can usually take about a full year to get with full head steam going, planning to get that actually from development order to development agreement. So yeah, they have 2 full years roughly to get the development agreement, and they have 1 full year to get the development order. That is how it currently reads, with some extensions built in for certain things.
Thank you, sir, for the clarification.
Anyone else with a question for, yeah, Mr. Walker?
Just to refresh my memory, how many units are part of this as recipient of the 600,000? Is it 15?
No, so 8, but we actually put that in the agreement too, because they had actually indicated they don't want to be obligated to do 15 units, but they do want to be obligated to do 8 workforce housing units. So we put in there what because they might decide when they actually present their project to staff to the development, or they might just present the project for 8 workforce housing units instead of 8 plus 7 non-workforce housing.
Gotcha.
So, but it's for 8 workforce housing units, and that's what y'all did approve of,
Gotcha.
Whatever, 18 months ago, or whatever.
8 at $600,000.
Yeah.
Gotcha, thank you.
Anyone else with a question? Seeing none, anyone from the public wish to speak on this item? Seeing none, council, do you wish to take any action on this item?
I'll make a motion to request for the authorization for you, Mayor, to execute workforce housing funding and CDBG reverter removal agreement, and for authorization to execute quitclaim deed amending the reverter clause.
A second.
Because when rock, paper, scissors. All right. Motion made by Councilman Merrill, seconded by Councilwoman Riley, for the request for the authorization to execute the workforce housing funding and CDBG reverter removal agreement, and for the authorization to execute the quitclaim deed amending the reverter clause. Any further comments from council, Mr. Merrill? Anyone? I would like to just briefly say to Mr. Burns and to the attorneys representing the church, a fantastic job of coming to a nice agreement that I think works for everybody. I'm obviously not sure how the council is going to vote on this, but I am very heartened to see all of y'all work together so well on this. I think it's a really, really good solution.
And Mr. Reeves too, he's a little bit.
Oh, and Mr. Reeves. Gotcha. Thank you. Council, please vote. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Jeter.
That's okay.
Okay.
And support, not support.
My bad. And it does pass 5-2. All right, that moves us back in time, on the agenda at least, to item 8. Mayor and council comments, and we'll start with Councilman Merrill.
I do have a comment. I want to talk about the traffic. It's been brought up to me. I have a business down there, full disclosure, but it's been brought up several times to me. I'm also in that neighborhood. With the bridge construction coming out of Brook Street, I don't know where to get this started, but to look at possibly switching the direction of the one-way. As the traffic backs up into the neighborhoods, people can't get out. I mean, some people can't pull out of their houses. So I haven't done anything. Usually I'm just like, no comments. So I don't know where, I just want to put it out there. I don't know who I need to talk to, where it needs to go from here. But possibly having a discussion about moving that one way going the other direction. That would kill the traffic build up in the neighborhood. It'd make the businesses there more accessible. There might be reasons not to do that. There might be great reasons not to do that. And if they're brought to my attention, I'm happy to drop it. But if I could be directed on where to take that from here.
I'll work on it with Daniel. I don't know the answer, but I'll work on it and get back to you.
I appreciate it.
All right, Councilwoman Riley.
I just want to make a quick acknowledgement and a huge thank you to Jan at our Memorial Cemetery. I attended the Memorial Day event, and I was so impressed with the fact that she did an amazing job with the grounds and just getting out early in the morning with the crew out there working to make everything nice and beautiful. I really enjoyed the event, and I just say hats off to Jan. And it's so amazing to see that we have a great public servants that work for the city of Fort Walton Beach and who are willing to go to the end to make sure that the city is well taken care of. So I'm very proud to say that she did a great job. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Riley. Mr. Schmidt.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, just push it out to who you need to. But just wanted to get a status update on the ITB or the solicitation for the Preston Hood expansion project.
Mr. Davis.
sorry, I missed the first part. You said update on that's the rec complex?
Yeah, and Mr. Danny Payne might have some information too, but just the rec center expansion, as far as previous city manager Reeves, as well as previous city manager Peters, ironing out some specs and some changes in the blueprint, I believe. And
Yeah, so
working
I was looking at it today, specifically, what are you chasing?
getting a solicitation back to the marketplace, putting it out to bid.
Okay, if that's...
Just a status update on, and if we don't have it now, just...
I'll follow up with him on that. He was just explaining the project to me, so...
Gotcha, yeah. And it was one thing that we didn't mention today in some pre-agenda meeting conversations, but wanted to make sure that we continue to keep that on the radar. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Walker?
I'll hold mine till the end, thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Councilman Browning?
Save it for the end.
Yes, sir. Councilwoman DeBerry?
I'll save to the end.
Councilman Jeter?
I'm gonna do both. Save some for the end and go now. That's all right.
I like how you mix it up.
Chief Beige, I would love the next meeting a few weeks from now for you and our new Quad C, Cinco C, whatever C he ended up being, officer, come present on us on how good that's going as far as code enforcement and what we can do to continue to help you guys, raise the bar for the city. So if you guys could come present at the next meeting and give us an idea, if that's all right with you, Mr. Jason, if they could come present. And, second thing is around the mound. We just got done talking about downtown design guidelines for the last 2 hours. We all know how important around the mound is. I don't know if anybody is familiar with it yet or not, or if Councilmember Schmidt has let some of you guys know as well that we did not get the TRIPS grant from FDOT. And what that was is we were $2.7 million in designing around the mound. TRIPS grant was going to pay for half of it. We were going to pay for the remaining 25%, around $650,000. The county was going to match us for that for another $650,000. We did not get it. So what that could do is slow the project down tremendously, and I don't think any of us want to see that happen. What I would like to do is just send a formal letter to the county and ask them if they're still willing to split the new cost with us to make sure we're on the same page. That way we know what we're working with going forward. If they're willing to pay the 13135 to split the new updated costs with us. So.
And I'll work with Mr. Davis on that, and we'll see. We'll get that out the next day or two.
That'd be great just to get an answer from them. That would be very helpful going forward. So.
You want to formalize that in a motion? Do we need to or no?
We don't need a motion. That's pretty crystal clear. The city needs 50% of the money, and the county won't ask the county if they'll reciprocate that.
Yeah, and they're aware of it. They've already agreed for the other half. So.
10-4.
I'll save the rest till the end.
Same with me. We'll move on to public comments. Anyone from the public wishing to make a comment on an item that is not on the agenda tonight, please step forward, state your name and address, and we welcome you.
Janet Wilson, 368 Gardner Drive.
Barry Caldwell, 366 Gardner Drive, Northeast.
Northeast. I passed out a brochure to everybody, including the attorney, and we've got concerns. There are several sunken boats, and we don't know who to take this information to. The first 5-6 pages, and this is just in our small little neighborhood, which is Elliott Point, Lake Earl, and the adjoining canal. We've got a couple sunken boats in the lake. We've got a couple sunken boats in the canal. And I literally don't know who to take it to. I don't know whether I take it to city, do I take it to FWC, Coast Guard, Fort Walton Beach Police, DEP? I need some guidance.
We're seeking guidance.
Because not only that, if you go to page 7, you can see one of the sunken boats, but you can also see they're actually running a business, a charter boat business out of the canal. And if you go through pages 8 through 10, you can see where it was very active, them renting boats. And for some reason, I guess the city has not been able to stop it. And so at this point, I'm looking for guidance, somebody to tell me what to do and where to go with this.
So I would first tell you that you've taken a great first step by bringing this information to us. I would like to invite Chief Beige and Mr. Frasetti up to speak. They're both kind of in charge of the two areas that we have of enforcement on this from our city standpoint, both police and code enforcement. I live right in this area as well. I could throw a rock probably into one of these boats, and I have absolutely never noticed that it was like this. So I sincerely do thank you for bringing this to my attention at least, and I'm sure the rest of our council feels the same way, but we'll give Chief Beige and Mr. Frasetti a little time to speak on it as well.
Mayor, we would just request a copy of the report that you guys are provided.
Absolutely.
And then we'll take proper action on that. We'll go through it all, and we'll do what we can with limited water enforcement capabilities. We'll try to partner with FWC. Ultimately, FWC is responsible for derelict vessels, and we'll work with the Sheriff's Office, try and get it cleaned up.
I think that'll kind of come down, there's going to be, if it's a derelict vessel, it'll be in the water. Looks like a couple of these might be touching property, and that might be where code enforcement comes into play more than the derelict vessel statutory approval process.
Exactly, yeah. So from that charter boat business, that side of it, the challenge is, just getting the information, getting photos, evidence there. We do work with FWC on this. We've got a good contact over there that, I think like we talked about before, it's trying to get them out there, prioritizing, where the FWC is at doing enforcement. But if we can try to get them out there, that'll help on the enforcement side. But if we have pictures, evidence from you guys, then we can initiate the code.
You can have that one too. Go ahead, sir.
Well, one of the concerns is that one of those vessels, somewhere along the lake, is leaking fuel. We've seen it. I've reported it to the FWC on 2 occasions now, and it's intermittent, so it's not all the time. Winds here are typically from the south, so we're at the south end, we don't see it so much. So our objective, in addition to the untaxed revenue business that might be running there, is the fuel and the leak and the environmental concerns as well.
Yes, sir.
Well, and another question, if you look at the last page of what I've passed out, you can literally see where I've zoomed in, and you can see somebody signing a contract. So we know they're actually running a business out of the backyard. But more importantly, they've got tons of vessels. They'll deny, I believe they've been sent to cease and desist, if I'm not mistaken. Memorial Day was crazy. Of course, they're renting the boats. They're not parking the cars on property anymore, so it makes it harder to catch them. They've got a van, and where they pick up and drop off. You tell me what pictures you need or what code enforcement needs. I've got a team of neighbors that are more than welcome, more than happy to assist. And we've sent emails in the past, and they've fallen on deaf ears. Anybody who takes pictures, any of these that I have, everybody is willing to testify, because we know that that's one of the things, we have to be willing to do that. And we want to get our neighborhood back, and we want our waters not to be blocked with pontoon boats that don't belong there.
For sure. For you guys, so I think the property that you're probably talking about there.
There's 2 properties.
Okay, yes, across the.
One on each side of the
Yes.
canal.
So the biggest thing from you all, from your neighbors, is.
I'll interject real quick. It sounds like this is going to turn into a reporting of a code enforcement action. We have people who actually are going to put their names to the pictures. I would ask at this point that we remove this part of it from the council meeting, because code enforcement proceedings are not supposed to be initiated at council meetings. So, but we have 2 individuals ready to step forward. So, yeah.
So we go to court we
yes.
work with them.
Talk to Mr. Frasetti. Yes.
You'll be our point person.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes, for sure.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you all very much. We sincerely appreciate you bringing it to our attention. Anyone else from the public wish to speak on an item that is not on the agenda tonight? Jared Leto. Oh,
This
no.
is what retirement looks like, Nick. Travis Smith, 359 Kettner Drive. Welcome, Mr. Davis. Excited to get some outside influence into a city that I think desperately needs it. So I'm excited for you to get started and see where it takes us. Kind of to follow up with what Janet and Barry were in here, this isn't something that's just came up today. I've been working on this with them for all 4 years I was on council. So this isn't something that just happened overnight. It's been a cat and mouse game for the last 4 years. So hopefully we can get some resolution for them. But none of that's the reason why I came in here. I don't think, Tiffany, you're here. I want to, and Nick, you probably have the same experience we did, but I just want to tell you guys how much fun that my kids had playing baseball this year at the rec facility, and how great of a job that Sean did putting that on. I think for the experience that what it was, and hearing other families coming over from other leagues playing in Fort Walton, I think the thing's going to blow up, and you're going to see twice as many people playing next year. It was just for working the kinks out, it was an absolute unbelievable experience, and I applaud the Parks and Recs department. They did a great job of putting that on, and you know, I know how daunting their job can be, and I could see Sean out there just working his butt off constantly. But I just wanted to come in here and tell him how much I appreciated it, how much my family enjoyed it, how much my kids enjoyed it. And I guess that means I'm going to be playing baseball from here on out, which I don't know how thrilled I am about that. But as long as the kids are happy, I'm happy. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Anyone else from the public wish to comment on an item not on the agenda? Yes, ma'am.
Lisa Courtney, 221 Beachview Drive. I understand from talking to several staff over the past week that our short-term rental ordinance may be at risk with the Senate Bill 180 that is on the governor's desk to sign, I guess. I tried to read it, and I can't really understand what I'm reading. But at any rate, if that's the case, I think we have to jump on the noise ordinance. And I know that we've talked about that, but that would help tremendously with those of us who are stuck with bad apples, for a better term. And I just read this morning where Destin passed or modified their ordinance, and they're not going to have decibel meters, is what I understand from the article I read. So anyway, I appreciate it. I just don't want this to drop. So whatever we can do to keep it going, whether it's, I don't know what we could do about the signing of the Senate bill, but whatever. I just don't want it to drop. So noise ordinance, let's go.
Thank you, Ms. Courtney. I know that Chief Beige and others are working to redo that ordinance and bring it back to our council as quickly as possible.
That's great.
It'll actually be at the next council meeting.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So 2 weeks from now.
Yay.
Anyone else from the public wish to speak on an item that is not on the agenda this evening? Yes, ma'am.
Michelle Dulac, I'm at 231 Broadley. I'm here to speak about the Monster Airbnb. I grew up in the Garniers neighborhood from the time I was like 8, 9 years old until I joined the military. I moved back to Fort Walton, and I live in the Garniers neighborhood because it's fabulous. I'm here to oppose the grandfathering of the short-term rentals in particular, 225 Beachview. It's also known as Manor on the Bay. I think it's operated for 3 to 4 years, but that doesn't make it legal. It's violated zoning and residential use rules since day one. Some key points, the property is in a residential zone, likely R1 or R2, not zoned for events or commercial use. My understanding, it's never been inspected or permitted as a short-term rental or venue. It's advertised to hold 44 guests with multiple kitchens, event space, and boat docks. It's also my understanding that the owner was fined for operating a jet ski business on the property. Over 60 police complaints were filed. This is by admission of the owner of 225 Beachview. It is also openly advertised as a wedding venue on Airbnb, YouTube, The Knot, and other websites with the capacity listed for up to 100 guests. That's a lot of people in a tiny little neighborhood. If it walks and advertises like a business, it's a business. And that's not allowed in residential neighborhoods. Grandfathering is for good faith, law-abiding operators not for businesses that violate city codes and neighborhood peace. I fully support the ordinance, especially the parts that limit occupancy, tie parking to guest capacity, ban events and commercial boat slips, and require local reachable contact 24/7. My personal experience, I have an Airbnb that's behind me and one house over. There's karaoke, 1:30 in the morning on a Tuesday night. Was working, wanted to sleep, couldn't sleep. I contacted them. Nobody responded until the next morning. And this happened on 2 different occasions. There was another occasion where they were partying outside. Alcohol was involved. I'm not a spring chicken anymore. I live by myself. I didn't feel safe to go over there and ask them, hey, can you guys hold it down, trying to sleep? I don't feel I should have to call the police. I should be able to call the owners of the Airbnb or the property manager and say, hey, there's a disturbance. Can you guys please take care of it? Well, it's failed twice, so I had to call the police. A little embarrassing to have done that, but you do what you got to do. Safety concerns. Guests have blocked, in particular for 225 Beachview, guests have blocked driveways, parked in yards, have brought boat trailers and even a school bus, which stayed parked for the guests during their entire stay. That house sits on a curve, so it's a visibility hazard and a safety risk. The owner said that he invested in the home and hasn't received citations, but a lack of citations doesn't mean compliance. It means enforcement hasn't kept up. 60 police complaints don't reflect a few difficult neighbors. They reflect operation that's incompatible with the quiet residential zone. And despite the owner's changes, the problems have continued. So I have a couple questions for the council, if you don't mind, sir.
Sure.
Does the city monitor Airbnb, VRBO, Booking.com, and similar sites for Airbnbs in specific or any neighborhoods to compare with property records and taxes?
So the county would be the one who would be in charge of monitoring property, like, are you asking like a homestead kind of exemption situation?
Well, how do you know Airbnbs are, lack of better words, registered?
We've just put this
permitted, maybe that's a better word.
We've just put this new ordinance in place, and obviously it's not been, but
I think Mr. Prezzetti can actually answer if you want the exact details. I know right now there's a fee because like the ordinance shall pass had no fee for anyone to register. I'm not sure if anyone's actually registered yet, but I think they're kind of waiting to see what happens with that SB 180. Right. And then we're going to really look at whether or not SB 180 does preclude this short, because we're not exactly 100% sure it would preclude all of the short-term rental ordinance, but it might kill some of the portions of it.
So I know that's not a real direct answer to your question, but did you have an additional question?
No, sir. I don't. Okay. I thank you guys for your service, and I thank you for your time, and I'm sorry I was a little bit nerved up. Thanks.
I think you were great, and thank you for being here.
Thank you, guys.
Anyone else from the public wish to comment on anything that's not on the agenda tonight? Seeing none, we will move on to item 10.1. Resolution 2025-8, a local housing assistance program for fiscal years 2025 to 2028. Mr. Prezzetti.
Thank you, Mayor. So this item is a bit of a procedural item that we do see every 3 years or so. the county manages the SHIP program here in Okaloosa County, and well, for Okaloosa County, and then for us as a city, we've been in an interlocal agreement for the county to manage the SHIP program for us for over 30 years now. And so this is an item that, and a few other items on the local housing assistance program, the LHAP, and the SHIP housing program. From time to time, we do receive from the county asking us to prepare and bring this forth to our city council. So this is an item that the city council last approved the plan in 2022, and what we have here is the updated plan for the next 3 fiscal years to update that local housing assistance plan. It's required as part of state law in order to receive SHIP funding that goes towards different types of housing support for owner rehabilitation, disaster repair, some certain types of purchase assistance, demolition, reconstruction, those types of programs. So the county, like I said, really administers this program. They provide all the background and information that's in this item. And they do seek input from the city as well as others in the community to help develop these programs and this plan every few years. And so with that, staff is respectfully recommending the City Council's adoption of Resolution 2025-8, renewing the local housing assistance plan for fiscal years 2025-26, 26-27, and 2027-28, and authorization for the mayor to execute the necessary documents. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Questions from the council for Mr. Frasetti on this item? Mr. Walker.
Any data on use of applications for use of recipients of SHIP funds within the city limits?
It's not really included with this. I'm absolutely sure. I know they do track that. Occasionally, we do bring other recertifications and documents summarizing, for prior years. We can certainly request it and see what we can get and kind of pass it out to the council.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Questions? Seeing none, anyone from the public wish to speak on this item? Council, you wish to take any action on this resolution?
Mr. Mayor, so moved to adopt Resolution 25-8, renewing the local housing assistance plan for fiscal years 2025 to 2028, and authorize the mayor to execute necessary documents.
Motion by Councilman Jeter, seconded by Councilwoman DeBerry to approve Resolution 2025-8. Any additional comments, Mr. Jeter?
I just think it's wise to work with the county on this, so good job.
Anyone else? Anyone opposed? Seeing none, please vote. The motion does pass unanimously. That brings us to item 11. Is that correct? Ordinance is on first reading.
This is ordinance number 2182, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Fort Walton Beach, Florida, amending Chapter 5.05 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Fort Walton Beach, Florida, retitling Chapter 5.05 to abatement of non-drug nuisances, amending Section 5.05.01, and retitling it to nuisance abatement program, amending Section 5.05.02, and retitling it to initiating nuisance abatement through notice to abate nuisances, amending Section 5.05.03 and retitling it to scheduling and serving notice of hearing before a special magistrate, amending Section 5.05.04 and retitling it to nuisance abatement magistrate hearing, amending Section 5.05.05 and retitling it to appeals, amending Section 5.05.06 and retitling it to abatement and storage, and leaving Sections 5.05.07 through 5.0516 in place with no changes, providing a severability clause and providing for an effective date. This is first reading. Mr. Frasetti is ready to present for staff.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you again. So this is an item that, a lot of times as we talk about code enforcement cases and issues that we've dealt with and trying to move stuff through the process quicker, as quick as we can, with all the time frames and notice requirements of statute and our processes. The nuisance abatement side is an issue that we've run into in that the current code, it's been in the code for a long, long time. It's a bit vague, broad, and it really lends itself to being a longer process than any of us would like to see. So what we've done, we had a couple examples in staff report, but some of these I would run to. In a case that, basically how it worked now is we took it through the standard code enforcement process, and then after that, and certain notice timeframes, then if no progress was being made on the nuisance situation, then we would look at comparing it for city council for additional authorization. Then typically it would go through the circuit court process, and so that's, we dealt with one a few years ago, and then that's adding substantial time through a substantial cost working with the city attorney or through that process, and so we've just run into, like I said, it is something that we were always hoping that we could do better with, and so in discussions with Mr. Burns over this last year or so, he had some good ideas. Ways that we could hopefully expedite this process a bit. So what we've done here is, that's what we have here is an ordinance proposal to amend our current nuisance abatement ordinance for code cases, so that if they go through a standard process and it's something that needs to take that next step into nuisance abatement, it can actually be handled through our special magistrate. That's something that Mr. Burns was aware of from other jurisdictions around here, and something that we were definitely interested in, kind of seeing if we can move forward with that direction. So it has various sections within Chapter 5 of the Code of Ordinances, but ultimately what it's doing here is creating a process that we hope is more streamlined, something that for any nuisance abatement, we can go through a standard code enforcement process in front of the special magistrate, and then if the time comes it has to take that step to nuisance abatement, we can take it back to the magistrate. It outlines the additional notice requirements. It does, include that notice by process server to hopefully, alleviate some of those, comments, things that have come up with people not being aware of their situation. And so, something that, hopefully on these we can, really move forward. It goes into the abatement of whatever, if it's trash, litter on the property, ways that we just have to be able to dispose of it or hold onto it, store it for a certain amount of time, giving them process to be able to reclaim any belongings that, that have value to them. So, something, like I said, worked with the city attorney on, hoping to help speed up that process that, we do deal with, sometime from code enforcement. We are seeking approval, respectfully recommend approval of this ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Paccetti. Anyone with questions?
If I can add just a little bit, because we did work for quite a while on this. The purpose of this is really to focus on, because usually code enforcement does a really good job on non-homestead properties. But the best example I can use is the actual voluntary compliance issues we've gotten done in nuisance abatement over the last 2 years. To kind of illustrate, so there was a pool with Lombre. There was a pool on Lombre that all the neighbors kept complaining about the code enforcement, but really nothing could be done about the issue. Once code enforcement staff actually made contact with the owner, they realized the owner didn't have the means to actually do anything about the pool. And when I say the pool was a nuisance, I think it was green, it was attracting mosquitoes, it smelled like a sewer. And so all the neighbors kept complaining about it. A lot of people y'all probably know. And finally, they were able to get in touch with the owner, and they offered to basically, we'll fill the pool in for you, is what they offered to him, if you'll sign an agreement. I drafted the agreement. It was just basically protecting the city from any liability. But those are like the only type of situations where the current nuisance abatement ordinance that's in effect, that's we're going to be amending here. Those are like the only situations that's really been viable, but only on voluntary compliance cases. Any involuntary compliance cases, the old way it's been worded, it was too stilted, kind of confusing, and it kind of left the question up in the air at times where not contractors might necessarily be fully protected as agents of the city in a situation like that. Because typically what's going to happen is something similar to what happened, I think, a few weeks ago. They did a nuisance abatement on a house on Lowry Drive. That was a hoarding situation. Again, it was voluntary. They were able to eventually get a hold of the owners. They consented to the city actually utilizing a contractor to haul away everything. I know code staff has spent all day out there making sure, just kind of monitoring the situation along with, I think, a member of the law or the PD. But that kind of illustrates, that's like the only other time I've known it's been effective, because there was another situation that was not effective. Y'all might remember there was a case that came up before y'all back in late 23 that actually spurred this nuisance abatement ordinance. It was a civil suit that the predecessor law firm to Ms. Kopp and I had filed, and started prosecuting in 2022, and we actually let them finish it out because it got finished in August of 23. And it was pretty expensive, but they did good work. I mean, but they had to do a lot of work on this individual, and that individual had been a problem for the city for almost 18 years. They had to actually go get an injunction, and it's a permanent injunction now, so the city can always go onto the staff's property and clean it out now. But that kind of was the only route you could go for under the old process. This new process streamlines it from the perspective that it goes from the magistrate after code enforcement. Like they still see code enforcement first, if that doesn't work out, they would invoke the nuisance abatement process on the property. And the magistrate would have a full evidentiary hearing, but then at the end of it, if he deems it is a nuisance, then staff could enter onto the property, kind of like they did in that situation that went from the judge. That was much more expensive. There is an appellate period in here. They would have time to appeal this to the circuit court. And as well as there's provisions in here what to do about storing the items and all that as well. And because obviously there's going to be, there's always a situation you think, did they take the Mickey Mantle baseball card or something like that? Well, anything that's over a certain dollar value, I think code enforcement staff indicated the dollar value should be something in the neighborhood of $250. Anything that exceeds $250 would be securely stored by the city. And the owner of the property could come make a claim on the property at that point in time for 30 days before the city disposed of it. The city wouldn't sell or anything like that. They would just dispose of the property. And so the new process is much clearer because there are always questions about like what does the city do with the property. It wasn't spelled out what the city would actually do if they clean up the property. And so the default decision would have likely been to take it to the dump, but that they were always too scared to pull the trigger to go forward with it. So this kind of reflects a more streamlined approach for staff to be able to maybe hopefully implement some of the stuff y'all have been wanting to do in the city.
Thank you, Mr. Burns. Questions from the council for either Mr. Burns or Mr. Frasetti?
I have a question.
Yes, Mr. Berry.
Could you clarify a little bit more, other than just reporting types of problems that we're having? How about the others that are having to go to the magistrate, such as the lean-tos or the carports and things like that?
That wouldn't qualify as a nuisance. I know the case you're talking about. You're talking about Mr. Nair's case, which is that would actually not even be considered a nuisance. What qualifies as a nuisance?
So we're talking more about like the one on Memorial and also Lombre.
Yeah, Lombre.
The one, the 18-year one, I think is.
Yeah. I don't know where the individual. I don't use his last name.
No. I think it was on Memorial.
Memorial, okay.
Yeah, it's generally the health safety, of affecting the neighboring properties in the neighborhood if it's causing some type of, something that's, affecting health safety of neighboring properties, and probably can help classify a nuisance if it's, a lean-to or something that's just not hurting anybody. It doesn't kind of fall into that category.
Yeah. Thank you for streamlining all this words.
And also to make it clear, because I think staff would be always too uncomfortable to go inside of the house, this is limited to everything on the outside.
Yes. Okay, thank you. I understand a little bit better. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Berry. Councilman Schmidt.
Assuming this were to pass, does this give you the teeth, so to say, with a list of concerns or some things that your staff is ready to take action on?
Yes. Now I will say there's some other items on the nuisance abatement kind of related topics that we've discussed for property maintenance, not nuisance abatement specifically. This definitely helps on this side. There's some ideas we talked about when we get Mr. Burns on, talked about implementing some other clear standards for property maintenance code requirements, because our code is also a little vague on that. It's kind of outdated in that regard, but certainly on this case it will help us.
Because I'm sure we're not short on the request as far as folks identifying different properties that may or may not fit in this, but what I'm hearing to say is the question is once if this were to pass, there's probably a list of properties that we're ready to take action on and try to, ultimately objective is to try to get them up to standard.
Exactly, yeah, we create spreadsheets from, running fines, kind of highest to lowest value of those to prioritize. Mr. Burns mentioned, we've tried to kind of go after some of the voluntary ones that are willing to let us go through that route. But the others that, sit out there, like we dealt with a few years ago there, those are the challenging ones that, this would help with, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else with questions? Seeing none, anyone from the public wish to speak on this item? Yes, sir, Mr. Rennie.
Robert Rennie, 313 Kepner. I just had a question. I was on the code enforcement board for a number of years and understand how slowly it worked at times, despite everybody's best efforts. So with the new magistrate processes in effect, what is the follow-up from the city? Because I'm very much aware of the property that was just recently cleaned up, and it's back. They're starting to pile stuff in the driveway, and I understand the Florida statute is if I want to make a complaint, I have to put my name on it. So, you know, you're kind of in a quandary as, you know, Joe citizen. Do I want to get my car keyed? Do I want to have a brick thrown through the front window of my house because I've complained about a specific property? There is no anonymity allowed now under the state law, and it handcuffs people from stepping forward, in my personal opinion, and saying it's back. So I wanted to know, now that we have an expedited process using the special magistrate, what is the follow-up process? If it used to take month by month by month, and now we're doing it in a much expedited manner, is there a follow-up so that that expeditious manner can continue to be applied to those areas that we continue to work, that we know they're going to fall back on? So,
thank you, sir.
For future consideration for Brookman.
Go ahead, Mr. Jeter.
Well, I want to agree with your exact scenario. We had that happen via email this week with a citizen who wanted the exact same thing but didn't want it. So what is the, I guess my question is the same as his, but what is the answer? Could the answer not just be if your staff knows that a list of these properties that were done, what is to say they didn't ride by and notice it back in bad shape again? Does someone still have to report it, or can they not drive up and down the roads? If you have a list of...
That's what I was going to say. The answer is, unfortunately, well, we know the statute, but that's the thing. It doesn't prohibit us from seeing it at any time. So, if we're driving by and see the violation, then we can cite the violation. It's just the ones that, we can't.
So how do we incentivize them? How do we incentivize your team to do that?
It's tough, we try to do, if we hear about a street area that, hey, we'll go around there. If I hear about it, I sometimes, drive myself, out there, take a look, or I'll let my guys know. Hey, I've heard about this one. It's tough, it's that fine line of statute there and trying to be effective with code enforcement. But, if we can see it and drive by it, we can cite it. So
I take a different route everywhere I go all the time just to notice this property or this project. So sure that we're not traveling the same roads. We're traveling different roads every day.
Yeah, and we've got 3 guys out there, driving around, best they can to catch things too. But, I always tell, hey, if there's something we can see or I hear about, from any, if I hear about it, then we try to initiate it.
So one of them should see that property by the end of the week and no one has to report it.
Yes. So, yeah.
All right. Anyone else from the public wish to comment on this? Seeing none, council, you wish to take any action?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion, the approval of ordinance 2182 on first reading and schedule second reading for the next regular meeting of City Council.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Schmidt to approve ordinance 2182, seconded by Councilman Jeter. Any additional comments, Mr. Schmidt?
Thank you, Mr. Burns, I love that word, streamlining this process, so thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak or speak against the motion? Seeing none, please vote. Motion does pass unanimously. Moves us to item 11.2, ordinance 2183. Mr. Frasetti. Mr. Burns.
An ordinance of the City of Fort Walton Beach, Florida, creating section 1.05.09 Code of Ordinances titled Personal Service Requirements for Certain Special Magistrate Hearings, providing alternative service methods when personal service cannot be effectuated, providing procedural requirements, providing for service-approved act hearings, and providing for an effective date. This is first reading, and Mr. Frasetti will present for staff.
Thank you. So on a related note to code enforcement here. So this is an item, if you may recall, going back to last summer, for those of you on council at that time. This goes back to discussions we had about code enforcement and the processes. As we all know, from time to time, we get these cases that come from the board, and one of the kind of recurring themes of that is that we hear people say they didn't receive notice, they weren't aware of the process, those types of concerns. So the direction at that time with City Council was to work with the City Attorney, come up with the discussion of adding in a step for a process server to have served notice on certain types of cases, that we want to try and take that extra step that's above and beyond what's required by Florida statute and within our code currently to make sure that we try to check all the boxes we can, so that hopefully, if it's unfortunately proceeding into more aggressive code enforcement action, they have been well informed by that step. So this is a pretty short ordinance that Mr. Burns that he put together for us to require that a licensed processor be authorized, that's authorized in the First Judicial Circuit. We would work with them and go through for those cases that would be going in front of the City Council and going through the magistrate for foreclosure of a court enforcement lien. So if it's something that's taken that step of foreclosure of the lien, we would make sure that we do provide this notice through service here to go forth with that process, and it does outline the foreclosure authorization hearing before the special magistrate, as well as the items to submit into the record for that process. So really just wanted to kind of add a little more procedure or due process into this procedure, to make sure that outside of the current requirements in Chapter 162 of Florida statute, that we're doing what we can to have them duly noticed. We do also include in here that if that processor, if they can't receive notice after efforts, that we would post a notice similar to our current process. A lot of discussion back and forth with my team. Mr. Burns was, hey, we want to be able to do this, but at the same time, if it's not working that way, we can't stop the process. Like, how do we continue on moving forward? So that's why we did include that within this short ordinance proposal. With that, we have already reached out to find out cost-wise, process servers and the cost. So there would be some additional cost, approximately somewhere probably $75 to $100 per notice served. We don't expect many of these annually, thinking big picture-wise, because this is a foreclosure, those rare cases that get there, but that would be some additional cost that was not previously budgeted, so related to other things with the budget and charter amendments. We did note that there. And then just lastly, we do respectfully recommend the City Council's approval of ordinance number 2183 to create this personal service requirement for certain special magistrate hearings. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Questions from the council for Mr. Presetti? We'll start with Mr. Jeter.
So let me get this straight. This will help us in a way, like I know you say this doesn't happen very often, but I feel like 2 or 3 times in the last 2 years, we've kind of been up here behind the dais, and the individual saying they didn't get it, and you're saying, well, I thought EML, this is going to take away all of the guessing work. I think it was Councilmember Smith or Councilmember Meade. We had this discussion about a year ago. They have this service out there, basically takes the monkey off your back and allows you to do your job, and then we have absolute proof, and we'll have that letter up there to show here's where they were served, here's where they were notified. Takes all the guessing work, he say, she say out of it.
100%. We do certified mail and postings on properties, but there's still ways that people say, well, I didn't sign for it, I didn't get it. Well, this is a set standard process. This isn't our process. This is something that takes that out to hopefully alleviate concerns of you all and everybody in that process.
Got it.
Wonderful. Councilwoman DeBerry.
Yes, I have a question. Do we not have a code enforcement agency anymore? I've heard several comments from other people asking to plead their case to the code enforcement board.
We've been using the magistrate for the last year and a half.
Is it more cost effective that we're doing this, or why do we not have the code? We have the LPA. We still have the LPA, but we do not have the code enforcement. And many residents have requested to meet with the code board process before going to the magistrate.
Sure. That discussion I know came up over the last couple of years. We decided as a board, I think as a council, to move forward with the magistrate direction. It's something that's we've seen locally and probably statewide that change. Timeliness, ability to reschedule hearings. Something that just consistency. Having in this case it's an attorney that's licensed, that's non-partial, non-biased. Not a neighbor that can sometimes be put in difficult situations. We certainly appreciate our volunteers who have these boards, and they do their best. No complaint from that, but it's just working on trying to have it just be consistent for every case, no matter who or what it may be, as well as quorums, which we didn't run into too many issues here with quorums of our board, but it takes out that also that if we need to work with rescheduling a hearing or add an additional hearing, it just really streamlines the entire approach for our team to be able to get through these processes.
Mayor, yeah, I actually do remember, because it was one of the first meetings I covered last year. I don't know if it was the June or August meetings I covered, but y'all actually did a thorough review at that point in time, because the special magistrate had to update their contract. It was amended. Y'all did a very robust discussion as to, because that issue got brought up by some members of the public about complaining of the Code Enforcement Board not being constituted currently, because I think there was only one member at that time. The council said they wanted to give a full year of seeing how the magistrate does for a year, and so maybe if we come back in the next meeting and we can tell you when that year was, because off the top of my head I don't remember if it was the June meeting or if it was the August meeting.
Yeah, I remember, because I was on the LPA for a while, and I wasn't, but now I came to code enforcement, and it seemed to be very effective. Is it more effective going straight, is it cost-wise, or money, is it that we're making more money?
And I mean, there's additional, cost, for, the hours, the time of the special magistrate, but for staff time and getting items through the process, we feel that's more effective to go through the magistrate.
I'm hearing a lot of complaints.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir, Mr. Schmidt.
Just would like to add some context to that as well. I strongly supported the magistrate process. And again, because we had a lot of complaints that I was receiving, and I respect your complaints that you're getting as well, but the complaints I were getting is pools were staying infested for too long. Blightedness was continuing on, and nothing on staff's behalf, but because of the statutory requirements of having to get things in front of a certain board in a certain process, action couldn't be taken. So in the process of trying to empower and encourage staff to have the resources to process cases, as well as to give the residents the opportunity to get their property up to code and up to standards, the ultimate objective. But if we can do, you mentioned cost, I know that word's subjective, but if we can do whatever we possibly can to get those properties up to code, those neighbors really appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else with questions for Mr. Presetti? Yes, sir, Mr. Walker.
Yeah, it looks great from what I can see. I know that I compared it then back then to the process of evicting someone. Personal service was a requirement, and all the T's and the I's and everything had to be dotted and crossed. And I think we were missing that some, and I know this was a result of trying to clean all that up. I guess it'd be a question to you, Mr. Burns, if, I've used process servers before, and if you've got an owner that's out of state, I believe, is it your understanding they will assign it to a process server there in that state for the registered? The problem home is here, and the owner that needs to be served is in Texas.
So I worked with, about a year ago, they experimented on a few cases with some personal service before, voluntarily they did. I think they already had the contractor in place, but it's a service that's basically a nationwide process service. So you submit the order to them. If they're out of state, they will find a local process server, assign it to them. That local process server will serve them.
Gotcha.
So they've come a long way on the out-of-state service.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else with questions for Mr. Presetti or Mr. Burns? Anyone from the public wish to speak on this item? Seeing no one, do you wish to take any action as a board?
Mr. Mayor, so move staff's recommendation for ordinance number 2183, creating section 1.05.09 of the Fort Walton Beach Code of Ordinances titled Personal Service Requirements for Certain Special Magistrate Hearings.
Second.
A motion made by Councilman Jeter, seconded by Councilman Walker to approve ordinance 2183. Any additional comments, Mr. Jeter?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Walker? Anyone wish to speak against it? Seeing none, please vote. The motion does pass 6-1. That moves us on to item 11.3, ordinance 2184 to amend the future land use for 35 Memorial Parkway Southwest from REC to CIU.
This is ordinance number 2184, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Fort Walton Beach, Florida, amending the city's comprehensive plan to amend the future land use map of property described as 35 Memorial Parkway Southwest
more particularly striving to apply the ordinance from recreation to civic institutional utility, providing for authority, providing for findings of fact, providing for consistency, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. This particular hearing is quasi-legislative, but the next hearing on the zoning is actually quasi-judicial. Normally, I would wait for the actual quasi-judicial hearing to ask this question to all the council members, but since it will organically, I think, involve the discussion on this one, and we can adopt this on the next hearing, I do need to ask each council member if they've had any ex parte communications. That means, have you received any emails or phone calls regarding these ordinances here tonight, namely the rezoning ordinance? And I'll go one at a time, and I'll go through a colloquy. If you say yes, just to make sure that I verify that you'll base your decision on the evidence presented here today in the chambers, not on anything you received outside of the chambers. So, Councilmember Browning, have you received any outside communications regarding the rezoning of this property?
Yes.
Okay. And can you give a brief description as to whether they by emails or phone calls?
Just by email.
Okay. And were these emails that were sent to your city email address of the public record?
Yes.
And do you feel that even after having received those emails, that you can basically ignore what those emails said and base your entire decision tonight on what happens?
I can.
Okay. And Mr. Barry, I'll ask you the same question. I want to ask, like basically you heard what I asked Mr. Brown. Did you receive any of those kind of emails?
Text.
Text.
Text and phone call and personal.
Okay. And out of all those communications you received, can you still limit your decision here tonight on what you actually hear here?
Yes.
And Mr. Jeter, same question. Did you receive any ex parte communications?
Yes, an email.
Okay. And will you limit your decision based upon what you hear tonight?
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Allegretti, just in case you do have to break some time, I'll ask you the same question. Do you think you can base your decision on the evidence you hear tonight?
Yes, sir.
And you did get some ex parte?
Received city emails, yes, sir.
And Mr. Merrill, I think everyone received ex parte communications, but can you ignore those and base your decision on what you hear tonight?
Yes.
Ms. Riley, same?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Walker?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that'll actually apply to the next hearing, because this one I will not actually put Mr. Prezzetti under oath for, but I think probably most of your discussion will be on this hearing. All right.
Mr. Prezzetti.
Thank you. So this item is the request to amend a future land use map designation for 35 Memorial Parkway Southwest from recreation to civic institutional utility, or CIU, future land use. And so this is an item, a property that probably most are familiar with. It's over the last few years, there's been a lease there to construct a future Montessori Learning Center at the property. And on April 22nd, the City Council approved ordinance number 2180 authorizing the disposition of this property to the Montessori Learning Center in Fort Walton Beach Incorporated. So going through this process, one of the requirements was a need to look at the future land use and zoning designations of the property, and the need to reassign them to a compatible zoning and future land use with the proposed school use. And so this is similar to a few years back, where the Emerald Science Center is, which is on the back of this property to the east of the specific parcel. They went through this very similar process that originally this property was all zoned as a recreation and future land use of recreation. And so we took those through the process, a decade or so back. And so in that case, it was initiated as a city initiated request that we took it through as part of this, working with the individuals that were looking at purchasing the property from the city. So in this case, following the ordinance in April 22 that the council approved, we did look back and decided for consistency and how we did it then. Let's go ahead and do a city-initiated request for the future land use and following item. And so that's what we've done here. The proposed CIU future land use is consistent and compatible, staff feels, with the surrounding properties and surrounding uses. This, based on the acreage size, does fall into the statute's requirements for a small-scale map amendment process, which we have in front of us today. And so, in going through this, it did go in front of the LPA at their hearing last week. The LPA did recommend denial of it. There were concerns voiced there, as well as there were some residents there, and residents that spoke with some concerns about it. A lot of them had to do with the traffic and some of the the specific development impacts and items that all, to just kind of explain, and we understand they're absolutely interconnected and related. We try our best to separate them out from a staff perspective, because when we look at the future land use here and the following item for the rezoning, we're looking at a table of uses and a land use that is either compatible with or consistent with our codes and the surrounding area or not. The school is one of those allowable uses within a community facilities or a specific institutional utility future land use. Those are certain types of uses that we've reviewed. As I mentioned, to the east already has this existing future land use, and then the other surrounding sites have low density residential. So staff has recommended approval. The LPA has recommended against this item. I do believe there's been some public comment here, but we are respectfully recommending request or direction either to approve or deny this request for the ordinance number 2184, amending the city's future land use designation for 35 Memorial Parkway Southwest from recreation to civic institutional utility. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Frissetti. We will begin with questions only from the council for Mr. Frissetti. Mr. Walker.
One of the emails, got several emails late even today for sure, but one of the first emails I received was from a lady who she was approaching it as to prevent the sale. Has the property actually closed? Has the closing taken place yet? No. Okay. Gotcha. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Jeter.
How long has the park that's there been abandoned?
I do not know offhand. Tiffany happens to know offhand. It's been years. It's been several years.
How long has it been leased to the current tenant or current purchaser? I think it's been abandoned for
21.
6 or 7 years and leased for the last 4 years to the current. So they're really, a lot of this came about because they're just exercising an option in their lease, that their lease is 4 years old.
Yes, sir.
Correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Mr. Berry, question?
Well, I was going to answer that. It's been more than 4 years.
Yes. Yeah, there was a community garden back on that property probably 8-10 years ago.
Yes.
After so that it had to do with the complex consolidation and the senior center and all there. That was back over 10-12 years ago now.
Anyone else from council with questions for Mr. Frissetti?
Maybe what is the status of the closing? Why hasn't it closed?
So the closing is set for later this month, and there were some objections, some title objections, and this actually is on the deal with most of those. There were some other items too as well that we had to get, a typical closing. There were items that the title agent identified, that the buyer's attorney identified. They've worked through that list, and they're kind of waiting to see what happens with this rezoning, I believe.
But just because I know it happened one other time on another park, and it's been some time ago, but have we reviewed the deed for restrictions as it must always remain rec? Because I know one we had, it was bought with some grant funds or whatever, so it was baked in that that park could never be anything, but then there was someone buying it for some homes that turned out, they closed, and then it turns out, oops, there was a deed restriction. Or they were trying to close, I'm sorry, they did not close because of the deed restriction. Do we know if this one has a deed restriction to remain rec/park?
So we're relying right now on what the previous city attorney did back in 2014. And I did reach out to him to get all his research today. He actually said he turned it over a few months back. I say the research, like all his files. So I think there were still some items he had not turned over. I'll get with staff to get that research so I don't reinvent the wheel. But the same analysis would have been conducted back in 2014 when the eastern half of the park was surplus, sold, and sold to the Science Center. And so I do know a distinction, though, what you're bringing up. There was that issue with the private developer that wanted to get a park. And I believe the difference is, what Mr. Dykes, our predecessor, determined was the city cannot go to that extent. Well, they can't provide any assurances to a buyer that you can do any development you want. You have to keep it in line with what
would be something similar to a park, which I believe you could have a park with this zoning designation as well, correct, Chris? This is kind of, if you wanted to have a park, you could have a mixed use. And so that's why I believe they felt it was okay in the Science Center case, but I'm not 100% sure. So I need to get his research and see what they came up with.
I think that answers my question is if the Science Center, it was the same parcel, they divided it up and then closed some.
Correct. The Science Center's on the eastern half. This is the western half that y'all approved to sell.
Yeah, gotcha.
Councilman Schmidt, do you have a question?
Yes, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought I saw your hand up. Yes, Ms. Riley, question.
So, specifically speaking on the deed that Councilman Walker mentioned, so do you have an actual deed indicating whether or not it can be used with other use opposed to a park and rec?
So
Is there, concrete validation that the
so
deed
we're
is
relying
clear,
on the
clear and
title
clear?
policies that have been issued. No issues were found on that issue by the title insurance agent on whether or not. And so I've been relying on that. And because I have not been directed to double their work up and see, are they being accurate? But the buyers who would be immensely concerned about that as well, they did lodge some objections, not to that particular point. And so, but I will, if y'all do want me to bring that answer back to the second reading, I can certainly do so.
You kind of don't want it all of a sudden, and get a surprise, or well, there's restrictions. I kind of, I like, if it's a deed, I would want it, personally speaking, for me to be steer and clear, and no restrictions, no limitations, no whatever. So I just wanted more validation. I mean, I'm just looking at the church situation with the reverter clause. There was restriction limitations. So looking at this situation, the buyer, obviously, you're saying that, right now through the, everything's pretty clear. But if you need to take an extra step, just to clear that, so that the buyer would at least have, the less worration in terms of putting it out there, and all of a sudden something come up. I mean, I may be on the wrong track on that. I mean, correct me if I'm on if I am. But for me, I would be more comfortable knowing that everything is clear and clear. There is no obstacles or bumps in the way that that would hold the process up of me purchasing the property.
They know they can never build a residential subdivision on the property. They're well aware of that. The buyers are. They know they're not getting full, unfettered, fee simple title. They are getting fee simple title, but they're going to be buying property that they're very limited on what they can do with it, and they're very aware of that as been documented. So.
Yes, Mr. Berry.
Correct me if I know I'm not wrong when I say this, because that was the Science Center was the old senior center years and years and years ago. And I don't want to assume, but would that not be Parks and Recreation, that all that, and then my children played ball there at that property. So isn't all that, I'm asking you, isn't that property Parks and Recreation, but we made an exemption with the Science Center?
That portion was rezoned and the future land use amended to allow this community facility for the Science Center.
Correct.
Same as what this request is here tonight. So there was no exemption, it went through the process as we're doing here.
They're getting the exact same treatment. The Montessori school's getting the exact same treatment that the Science Center got.
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
Because I know, like our Public Works is still needed Parks and Recreation.
Thank you.
So that's what I wanted to make clear for this property that we're talking about.
Gotcha, ma'am. Thank you. Anyone else with questions for Mr. Burns or Mr. Frasetti? Seeing none, does anyone from the public wish to speak on this item? If so, please step up, state your name and address.
Hi, I'm Kate Weathers. I live at 241 Coral Drive. I just wanted to come tonight and share that I'm a resident of the Seabreeze neighborhood, and my house is right next to the park at 35 Memorial Parkway Southwest. I was born and raised here in Fort Walton, and after I graduated from Florida State, I chose to plant myself in the Seabreeze neighborhood because of the spacious land, the active community, and specifically because of that park. I've walked my dog in the park, even recently, thrown new discs for disc golf in that area that used to be the T-ball field, and walked my nephew over to the Emerald Coast Science Center. I can hear the sounds of children playing on the playground. There is a little playground park. It needs a little help, but it is still there. Neighborhood kids are playing there, and there's actually a new family of ospreys that have moved in, and I can hear the sounds there. I value those tall, mature trees. They provide beauty and shade for our neighborhood. They keep us cooler and provide cleaner air. And I value that the park is for our residents to enjoy a green space, relax, and decrease stress levels while inside the park or even viewing it by walking or biking by. I value the improved quality of life this outdoor space provides for my neighborhood. Tonight, I'm here to say that I have concerns about the city abandoning the space for recreation. I have concerns that my rights as a property owner, that I bought into the 5th edition of Seabreeze subdivision that had a marked park there, may not be honored. And I believe the property owner should formally consent before the land is designated as a park that it's sold. The local planning agency voted last week to recommend that this council deny the proposed zoning change and future land use from recreation, and I'm asking that you also deny that request. The property owners of 5th edition to Seabreeze should have their access to the marked property as park in the subdivision plat retained. Respectfully, I ask that you deny this and deny the sale of the property. Since I received the mail notice about this meeting a few weeks ago, about a really steep learning curve. I've learned how to search city records, contact my city officials, and engage the community on this issue. The core thing I've learned is my neighbors care about having access to an outdoor space. If it's possible that I am a little too late in speaking up on this issue and stopping the process, please consider adding contingencies to preserve some form of access to a playground or maybe a small area for the neighborhood to use in the future. Thanks for your consideration.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else from the public wish to speak on this item? Mr. Smith?
Travis Smith, 359 Kentner Drive. Just wanted to, kind of reiterate that this that is before you is not the sale of the property. It's a zoning change. So the sale of the property has already been voted on, from what I remember, at least three or four different times. I think the school is going to be an asset to the neighborhood. I believe, from what I recall, in the beginning there was a couple, the city obviously, especially the Parks and Recs department at that point in time, didn't want to maintain the property anymore. The neighborhood tried to take it over and turn it into a community garden. That went defunct pretty quick. It's kind of sat over there and done nothing since. So city surplused it, and I believe there was maybe two ideas with it. I think one of them was either some sort of Section 8 housing or workforce housing or whatever term that you want to use, which I think the neighborhood was vehemently against. And then the school came in with an offer, and the council at that point in time had made an agreement with the school. So that being said, even if this weren't not to pass, and even if the sale to the school didn't go through, they have a 30-year lease on the property. It's not going to be a park for a minimum of 30 years, and that's if the city didn't renew their lease, because they're a leaseholder on it. Really, it shouldn't be being used as a park right now because it is leased by a private entity, and anybody on that property is a liability for that entity. And to the extent that I'm sure Chief Beige can probably come in and give you some information, the amount of trash that we have pulled off of that property from the neighborhood dumping on it, vehicles, boats, furniture, vagrants living in the dugouts, vagrants living, kind of all over the place over there. So, it's from what it has been here for a while to what it's going to be is going to be a good change for the neighborhood. My understanding is that the LPA didn't approve it because there was some potential concerns with traffic, but that's not what is here before you. And anything that will be built on that piece of property will have to adhere to our land development code, no matter what it is. So, this is just a simple zoning change, a housekeeping issue. So the process continue to go on, and a school that's been in this community, I believe, for over 40 years can have a little bit of growth and the busing that seems over at the church. And truth be told, there's no telling what could potentially happen with that church, because I think our understanding is they're under some financial hardships, and it potentially could be up for sale. So if the school has nowhere to go, then you're going to lose a valued school that's been in this community for over 40 years. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public wish to speak on this item? Yes, sir.
Good evening. Brian Springen, 9 McIntosh Robert Field. As a parent of some children at the school now for 3.5 years and a resident in the area for 3.5 years, we've greatly enjoyed the family and community that Montessori Learning Center has provided to my kids. We found a new school home for them. They have been excellent stewards, which is why we're a loyal family to them. They've got some great plans. They look forward to growing with the area, and rezoning and approval of this will allow them to continue with those plans. I've been a supporter of those plans and fundraising efforts and everything else like that, and an active member of the community for that. So I think they would be wonderful stewards. They would make good use of the land. They've made good use of their present position, but they're looking for growth. With that growth, I know there comes some changes and some growing pains, just as raising kids sometimes happens. But it's worth it. It's definitely worth it to the community. And as someone who's moved into the base in the area and found a home, I think this provides a lot of opportunity and a great place. So the Ospreys, I think, will still be there. I think the school has plans to put a garden right on the property. They have plans to keep it clean and keep it nice for the kids. Thanks. I'll give back my time.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else from the public wish to speak on this item? Seeing none, council, do you wish to take any action?
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt ordinance number 2184 to amend the city's future land use map for the designation at 35 Memorial Parkway Southwest from recreation to CIU civic, institutional, and utility.
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Jeter and seconded by Councilwoman DeBerry to approve ordinance 2184 to amend the future land use map for 35 Memorial Parkway from rec to CIU. Any additional comments? Mr. Jeter.
Yeah, I would just like to say thank you for everyone who came out tonight, and Mrs. Weathers, I really enjoyed a lot of what you said. I'm glad this got you involved, and I'm glad you learned a lot about the process. And I do hope going forward that there is some type of use, whatever they decide to do with that property, that you get to enjoy the benefit of. I also know that we got a lot of parks right around you, so maybe since that specific park needed some TLC, maybe we can do some TLC to a park that's just as close or right around the corner from you. So I think there's a win-win in this situation, but unfortunately we're so far along the process that was even started before many of us were up here. This park had been abandoned. This property had already been surplus. They've already got a lease on it. And you said it best, it may be a little too late in the game, but I love your involvement. I love what you said. Hopefully you continue to stay engaged and help us make decisions on things going forward in the future.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Berry, any comments?
Yeah, I feel the same as you, Mr. Jeter. I've been in this area for a long time. Like I said, my children played ball there. My children and grandchildren go to the Science Center. I'm very familiar with Montessori at St. Simon's. And they were at the charter, they were at Golden Heights, or Combs Heights, I think it was, before it became a school, a public school. So I think it's going to be, and I pray that it will be, a blessing for your neighborhood.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone wish to speak against or anyone?
Yeah, real quick. I think we're getting closer to closing, but I just want to, I'll be supporting this, and I just want to appreciate Mr. Tinsley and others that have worked to get to this point over the last 6-7 years. Just to take it from a concept to this point, while at the same time, the next item will be down the road will be the development side out of it, and when the development order goes through staff, we'll look through that as well. But we've got a long way to go to see the vision of a school adjacent to a science center inside of a neighborhood is a lot of times what communities are trying to plan for and solicit, and we just appreciate all the efforts it took to get to this point. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Riley.
I just want to say that, probably sound a little bit on the dumbfounded side. Thank you, Mrs. Smith, for educating me. But as far as on the DE part of things, I didn't realize that, all of this was had already pretty much transpired. But, I understand this is, for the land use part now. So I made that comment because I didn't realize that whoever the buyer, everything wasn't totally closed there. But just to expound a little bit really quickly, but I can tell you I'm 100% advocate. I'm very strong when it comes to education. And so I am familiar with the Montessori school. And obviously anything dealing with education, I promote it. So again, just a little bit, on the dumb-sided part, I guess you would say, per se, on how far we were.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else wish to speak on this item? Council, please vote. The motion does pass unanimously. That moves us to item 11.4. Ordinance 2185 to rezone Memorial Parkway from REC to CF. Mr. Frasetti.
Ordinance number 2185, ordinance of the City Council of the City of Fort Walton Beach, Florida, provide for authority to provide for findings of fact, providing property described as 35 Memorial Parkway Southwest, more particularly described in the body of the ordinance to be rezoned Community Facility Zoning District, provide for amendment of the effective portion of the official zoning map, provide for severability, and provide for an effective date. I will just note for the record, so we have a clear record, that the colloquy to the City Council members that was conducted before the reading of the last ordinance, 2184, actually is adopted because it was done for purposes of this ordinance to make the discussion on the previous ordinance more organic. I do need to put Mr. Frasetti on the road. Mr. Frasetti, you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Okay, so you're on the road.
Mr. Frasetti.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, Council. So this is the next step, talking about the process and the procedures here. So this is the next step in providing for consistency with this request for the land use as previously approved on first reading to change the future land use. This would be the request to rezone the property from a recreation zoning to a community facility zoning. This is where we get into the more of the land development code side, the nuts and bolts that comes into the future development order and all that we've previously alluded to. But this is the zoning request, so staff has completed our review of it. We did find it was consistent with our standards in the land development code as well as comprehensive plan. As I previously mentioned in the last item, this is the same zoning as the property directly to the east, which is the Science Center property. And based on the surrounding zoning, a community facility does allow for those community services and facilities that staff does find compatible with the surrounding zoning categories. This item also did go to the LPA. They did recommend denial, as the last item, citing some of those concerns, going into the more of the actual development detail of the traffic and some of those, for a specific use. In this case, we are looking at the zoning district community facilities as a whole and all of the uses that could or would be allowed in that zoning district when it comes to traffic and any other development standards, stormwater, parking, landscaping, and so on. Those are all items that staff would have to review and address during the development order process, during the civil site plan review process, as we, if it was to go forward. So, we've received some of those comments as you have regarding the LPA and questions about the background and the process here. So, with that, staff is recommending approval, and we are looking for direction based on all the discussions here tonight for this ordinance number 2185 to rezone 35 Memorial Parkway Southwest from recreation to community facility zoning district. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Questions from the council for Mr. Frasetti on this item? Seeing none, does anyone from the public wish to speak on this particular item? Mr. Smith.
Travis Smith, 359 Kepner Drive. Just kind of wanted to follow up from the last one. You guys see it as much as I do around this community. Every time something's built, what is it? Is it a storage facility? Is it a car wash? Is it, a mattress firm? Is it a car dealership, for God's sake? I mean, it's going to be nice to build a new school in this area that has schools that probably on average are between 50 and 80 years old. So I look forward to helping the school get to the point to where they need to be to get ground broken on it and get it up and going and be an asset to the community. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wish to speak on the item? Yes, sir.
Hi, Stephen Arrowsmith, live at 250 Lafitte Crescent. I'm on the board here and at Montessori. And I'm not trying to beat a dead horse. I appreciate everything you guys are doing. I just wanted to reach out and say I'd love to speak with you afterwards. I'm very passionate about green space, very passionate about trees. So I hope that we can work together on the green space around that. Montessori School is a science space, green space, pollinator zones, outdoor gardens. That's all science-based learning, right? That's what we're about. So I really think with the Science Center, this would be a great fit in the neighborhood and would actually boost the property value. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else from the public wish to speak on this item? Council, do you wish to take any action on the
Mayor,
item?
I'd like to move to adopt ordinance 2185 to rezone 35 Memorial Parkway Southwest from recreation to community facility zoning district.
Second.
A motion made by Councilman Schmidt, seconded in unison by Councilwoman DeBerry, who must have said it first. To approve ordinance 2185 to rezone 35 Memorial Parkway Southwest from Rec to CF. Any additional comments? Mr. Schmidt, Ms. DeBerry.
I look forward to Montessori coming to Memorial Parkway. And like I said, I know. And I've been following Montessori School, like I said, since you were over there on Lovejoy Road and at St. Simon's. So, and I hope, and I'm expecting. Thank you.
Mr. Jeter.
Yeah, I'd just like to say thank you to you, Mr. Tinsley, Mr. Smith. Thank you, and also thank you for coming up here and speaking on behalf like you did to show that it is going to be a benefit for the community. We'll all work together. So, like I said a minute ago, hopefully we can always find a win-win in every situation. I think we can here too. So, look forward to it.
Yes, sir. Anyone else wish to speak? Seeing none, please vote. And that motion also passes unanimously. Moves us on to appointments. Item 12.1, Ms. Barnes.
Thank you, Mayor. The Fort Walton Beach Housing Authority has a member whose term is set to expire, and Ms. Toya Moffitt fills the position that is for a tenant position. And so we reached out to Ms. Sansberry, and she did say that Ms. Moffitt would like to continue to serve. So staff respectfully recommends the mayor to reappoint with city council approval Ms. Toya Moffitt to fill the tenant position on the Fort Walton Beach Housing Authority Board of Directors for a 4-year term to expire June the 26th, 2025.
Thank you, Ms. Barnes. Questions from the board for Ms. Barnes? Seeing none, anyone from the public wish to speak on this item? Council, do you wish to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to reappoint Ms. Toya Moffitt to the tenant position on the Fort Walton Beach Housing Authority Board.
Second.
Motion by Councilwoman DeBerry, seconded by Councilman Jeter to approve and reappoint Ms. Toya Moffitt to the tenant position of the Fort Walton Beach Housing Authority Board. Any additional comments? Council, please vote. That motion does carry unanimously. We've already done item 13.1, so we fast forward ahead to item 13.2, a request for a major development order for Bit Wizards at Freedom Tech Center at 350 Liberty Lane Northwest. Mr. Persetti.
Thank you. So this item, as we've seen from now, from time to time, we get the kind of next phase of the Freedom Tech Center development. That's definitely speeding up and progressing, greatly along Lewis Turner Boulevard, Lewis Turner. So this next major development order request is for a 2-story, nearly 51,000 square foot building for Bit Wizard. And so this application came in from the applicant back at the end of April, and we worked with them pretty quickly to try to get this through the process, knowing our kind of council schedule all coming up this summer, and so we were able to finalize it here just in the last week or so and get it on this council agenda. So this is a request that we did review, as I mentioned already, the size, square footage. We did our technical analysis and do find that it does meet these requirements in our land development code and comprehensive plan for this project. The only one item to note was the maximum lot coverage. The maximum allowable impervious is 75%, This specific phase comes in at 84.5%. However, this is in the planning and development of PUD. And so when we're looking at it big picture wise, you know, the overall site has to be under 75%. If one small portion here is over that, as long as it's, you know, all balanced out to be under 75 at the end of the day, at the end of this whole development. That's what matters, you know, that's what we're good with. And so, you know, we just want to draw attention to it that this one is technically higher. However, you know, development wide, they're still doing fine. All the other standards do meet code. As we've discussed on probably each phase, the landscaping, there was the protected tree requirement based on the Air Force and lease requirements was unique and different in the PUD for this project. So they did, you know, clear the site. However, they were coming back in and putting in landscaping that meets our land development code for all the new trees. Everything else we do find is consistent and compatible, as I said already, with the code. A couple of quick conditions that we did want to note on the development order. Standard procedure for how we do development orders typically is that the permit application submittals, if approved, would be the next step, and we want to just make sure to clarify that they have to be designed in accordance with the current editions of the Florida Building Code at the time of submission. We did note the official address for the property would be 350 Liberty Lane Northwest. And we also have an approval based conditionally upon Okaloosa County approving the driveway location, solid waste location, and stormwater improvements on Judge Maney Way, which is a private drive, so makes that just a little bit unique. But you know, working through the process there too. With that, staff does respectfully recommend the City Council's authorization of the mayor to execute the major development order for the construction of a two-story, 50,896 square foot building for BitWizard at Freedom Tech Center, 350 Liberty Lane Northwest, in accordance with the specified conditions. I do know the applicant is here as well to answer any questions as I have not.
Thank you, sir. Questions from the council for Mr. Frasetti? Seeing none, we'll let the public speak certainly after Mr. Odom shows us what's on that fancy board of his.
Good evening, council. Appreciate you being here, seeing over the city business. Good news, we're continuing to move forward at Freedom Tech Center. A while back I was here to get a development order for Beast Code. We'll be pouring footers on that project tomorrow or Thursday, depending on the weather. So we're making really good headway. We hope to have that project finished and the tenant moving in late next summer. And so I'm here tonight for the next part of this. This is...
Mr. Odom, sorry,
yeah.
speak to the mic check because of the recording. Thank you.
I'll let the audience see it in a minute. But this is for BitWizard and Talking Parents, same company, 50,000, two-story, 50,869 square foot building. And this is going right next door to the Holiday Inn Express. And if we're approved tonight, the building plans are ready. They've already been submitted for building for construction review based on getting this approved. But we're excited to get this in the ground. They also would like to be in by late summer or September next year. Same contractors building both buildings. So that's what I'm here tonight for, is to ask for this. A little bit of update. Last week our apartments, we have 312 apartments right next door to this. They just passed 50% occupancy. So, and they should be fully finished with all the construction on those next month. So we're feeling pretty good about that. The hotels are doing really well. So we're very excited about bringing this next portion. I just found out yesterday that I'll be back in front of you on the 24th meeting for the approval of Grow With Us Daycare to go right next door to Beast Code, 17,000 square foot daycare center for scheduled for completion next August. They have pre-K and kindergarten, so they've got to open by school year. So that'll be coming right behind these. It's approved for 270 kids. So we're excited about that project also. It's similar in style to the Beast Code building, so it all fit together. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, anybody questions for Mr. Odom? You got him speechless, Mr. Odom.
And I would like to say a word about your staff. Excellent to work with. They've been, everything we've done, they've been responsive on, helpful with. You can call them up and ask them a question, you get a real answer, a reliable answer, and we really enjoy working with the staff here. They're very professional and know what they're doing, so we appreciate that. I work in a lot of other jurisdictions, and a lot of places are not nearly as nice to work in as, I truly feel like they're here to help, not here to hinder. So I just wanted to say that because it's a pleasure.
I truly do appreciate you sharing that with us as well. Thank you, sir. Anyone else from the public wish to speak on this item? Seeing no one, council, you wish to take any action?
Mayor, move to execute the major development order for the construction of a two-story, 50,896 square foot building for Bit Wizards at Freedom Tech Park, which is going to be at 350 Liberty Lane Northwest in accordance with the specified conditions.
Second.
A motion made by Councilman Schmidt, seconded by Councilman Jeter to approve the request for the major development order. Any additional comments, Councilman Schmidt?
Yeah, I just want to also highlight what Mr. Odom said and appreciate between staff as well as the developer working together to stay compliant while also at an expedited pace. And what I mean by that is I know we don't have meetings in July, and we just heard from, I don't want to fly through this too quickly, but what's down the chute coming forward and continuing to come with this development are huge needs in the community. Higher income wages, daycares, all types of things that, as the developer just ran through that quickly, I don't want to go through it without highlighting it. And that can't be done without our staff and without developer working together. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Jeter?
Yeah, just like that, go the same thing, and it's nice to hear the positive, so thank you. I know we got a lot of guys over there in that building department, Josh Stevens and Kevin, there's some really good guys over there, been here a long time as well. Just like some of our guys that have been here 15 years at the golf course we heard about earlier. We've got some guys that have been over there for 15 years, and it's good to hear that they're a joy to work with, because they really are. And yeah, it's pretty cool to be here on a night when you get to see not a full-blown school, but kindergarten, first grade, 270 kids, another school going in. So like Councilmember Schmidt said, a lot of great stuff happening. So thank you, keep doing it.
Yes, sir. Anyone else wish to speak on this item? Seeing none, council, please vote. The motion does pass unanimously, which brings us on to item 14, city manager reports.
We'll be announcing fairly soon a groundbreaking, so I hope you all come.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Davis?
Yes, so not necessarily a formal report, but as we spoke earlier, I will have a more formalized process for the individual sections to attach to the meeting agenda for the next council meeting. So you'll have updates from the individuals. I briefly discussed kind of that brain dump I've given you guys on the weekends. I think I'm going to keep that process. It's public record. It's more of just talking points for this team to potentially take that idea and bring it up at council to assign it to the team. So I think I'll keep that process in place. But other than that, that's all I have for now, unless you have other things. And I did have a panic moment when you asked about the park. I didn't see Daniel sitting here. So we did discuss it, and I need to sit down with finance when she gets back to see what the next step is in terms of where this money's coming from. Because I'm more accustomed to a programming phase, an architectural services phase, and then the construction phase. And I don't know if I feel like we may have missed a step there, so I might have to track down some money, but I'll figure it out and I'll get back to you on that.
Thanks. Anyone else questions for Mr. Davis before seeing none? City Attorney reports.
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
All right, thank you, Mr. Burns. That brings us back to final council comments. A lot of you said you had some good stuff for later, so we're going to hold you to it now. We'll start with Councilman Merrill.
I said I'm all good.
All right. Councilwoman Riley.
I just want to thank Mr. Odom again for his good works that he's done in the community, and I'm again very supportive of the local community and specifically local development, local businesses. So I thank Mr. Odom so much for all that he do for the community.
Thank you, ma'am. I want to also shout out Miss Riley for playing hurt tonight, playing injured. Just had an eye surgery. Lights really playing havoc with her in here, but she fought through it and did a great job. So thank you, ma'am, for being here
Yes, sir.
and representing your community. Councilman Schmidt?
Yeah, I just want to compliment as well as piggyback off of what Councilmember Merrill mentioned during his first comment side of the house. 'Cause, you know, I do remember that we're just looking for what next. So whatever staff can do in future meetings in August to look for ways that we can impact that neighborhood and impact the downtown district and find win-win situations for future meetings coming up, I would completely support that, Mr. Merrill. And another comment, again, it's sometimes the little stuff is big stuff, but you know, whether it's meeting with Ms. Tanner today or, you know, Public Works recognizing and getting the white substance off the wall behind us, you know, those things take action. And those things may seem little, but those are big things. I just want to acknowledge those kind of things that are being done in a quick period of time. So thank you, Mr. Payne, and thank you, Mr. Davis, for a short, but as well as two, I could go on, but the customer service, what we heard at the last meeting from the gentleman who would like the kiosk removed, hearing great things from Mr. Davis and the growth management staff on taking immediate minor tweaks to just improve that customer service process. That's all I got, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Walker?
Yes, thank you. Kim, just maybe house cleaning, I don't know. I know that when I was at the office looking at the minutes, obviously I found that one correction I wanted to have, but here in this grouping, I believe both of the minutes, they show a date of 5 o'clock and a 6 o'clock meeting, but they're both the 5 o'clock meeting.
Okay, I'll check that out.
I mean, I'm not the only one that's that way, right? Or do you have this up here as well?
I'm not looking at the same screen that you do.
Okay,
So I have to
gotcha.
do
Yeah,
the
so
voting and everything.
I just want those to be, the 6 o'clock meeting and the 5 o'clock meeting, both to be entered in the record. And if you didn't know it, it's not there. That's all I was going to say.
Okay, thank you for letting me know. I'll check that out.
And then, Mr. Jeter, you had mentioned something in your opening statements I want to follow up with regarding the request to the county and the $1.3 million. Whereas before, I think we 1.375, whatever it was going to be. I think we had kind of gone in at 650 was what it's going to be, and now that grant was denied or not approved, whatever you want to call it. So I'm continuing to try to watch this clock be built. But if we do go to the county and they're 1.3 million and we come up with 1.3 million, I'm just the PD&E is still not done. And, you know, I just continue to think oftentimes in some of these discussions we have about Around the Mound, and we've, you know, poured money into it, put money into it as it's going to be required no matter what. But are we wasting money if the PD&E comes back and says, no go, guys? And so I would just I know that you and Mr. Schmidt are both in the transportation, and I know you guys know a lot about it. So I just wanted to hear, does that sound, I mean, with a 1.3 million investment, instead of the 650 was still an investment too, but are we putting the cart before the horse if the PD&E comes back and says,
We're not really putting any cart or horse out right there. We're just asking the county, we didn't get this grant. That grant we weren't going to find out till a later point in time if we were going to do the design anyway. We've already found out we're not going to get it. So now we're just finding out if we do hook a cart to the horse, are y'all going to help us pull it? So we're not approving any funding, any money. We're just asking the county, are y'all still on the hook for your half?
Gotcha.
We were 25, 50% grant. We lost that grant. So I'm kind of like, I'm trying to figure out the same thing.
Sure.
Because what the county comes back and says, no, we're out. Well, then we need to know, now we're on for all 27. Where are we at now? So I'm just trying to figure out where the county is, where we're going to be.
no, I think that's great to hear that, you know, sounds reasonable to go to them. Would y'all step up for 1.3 if we do? But are you foreseeing that let's assume they do and let's assume that we do, we're not going to fund it until after the PD&E, is that correct? Or are you thinking before?
No. We'll wait till after that's done because we don't know what we can actually do anyway.
Perfect. Thank you for clearing that up.
Yeah.
And then kind of two parts here. Maybe, Jeff, I think I copied you on one of the emails to Ms. Cobb, and I think Mr. Davis was on it regarding the golf course deed that had been in question for some time about, you know, I've been leaning towards at least exploring having a professional management company run it. I've continued to think about it, got the deed sent over and looked at the history of it. Do you have an opinion there at this time that you could share with us regarding the feasibility, the acceptability, or the problems that may come up? I just didn't see anything in all of the deed work. I actually saw some things that were positive in that regard. I think the YMCA was mentioned in it with the pool. You know, the city went to the Air Force and said, hey, can we do this with the YMCA? They want to do a pool. And to my surprise, the Air Force came back and their legal opinion was not only yes, but as long as it's open to the public, y'all don't have to be doing it. So my thought to move forward with maybe soliciting or entertaining some ideas for management, are you feeling anything up front about prohibiting that? Anything that you saw?
I can come back to an answer at the next meeting. I've seen the deed attached to an email. I believe there were some questions directed, of course, Ms. Cobb, but I'll be handling all the meetings this month. I'll have an answer. I might put it in writing too as well with just analyzing the deed, my opinion on that.
Sure.
Is that good?
Yeah, absolutely. I was just curious if you had had anything on it, and it kind of brings me back to Mr. Davis. I want to welcome you. Thank you for all of the communications we've already had thus far. I don't know how to say it. I like your style, the way you lay out your emails, the way you incorporate the small things with the big things, and you're tying it all together. So I just really appreciate that. It's a wonderful way to communicate. Thank you. And with that, and for the councils, you know, just where I'm coming from on following up on the golf course, I know that with the Charter Amendment 3 and the fears of it causing problems, I mean, if by chance the deed is not restrictive, and there's an opinion rendered on that it's not restricted, and if the council went forward to seek bids for managing the course to remove, I don't know what that number is, that's what I was going to ask. Maybe if you could, or direct me to it, or get it from Nicole, or you find it, or whatever else, but the actual number that is an expense that is a part of the categories that are capped at 3%, and I'm just going to make a number of $2 million. And then if we had that, if the deed allows it, it's not restricted, and council agrees to seek those bids on it, we could theoretically relieve $2 million worth of debt if that was the number that was in the 3% cap. Bring that back into the pool of money and spread it against about the other departments that we may be having some, you know, spending prohibit. You know, the 3% is like, man, that really stinks. We've got it over here. But if we then use that as a problem solver, where it's strictly revenue coming into us, as opposed and no expenses related to it, I think that would be a big swing for us. Have you thought any about those items?
Short answer is yes. The first, I think I followed up with your email. Your first email was labor intensive. Your second one in my head seems like an easy thing to provide. So I've sent it to her. Again, she's in Colorado. Sure. But I'm going to sit down with her. I think she's back Tuesday. I think we can provide that. If not, I'll let you know the outcome there. But chewing through it, I think there's just other things I want to be careful with before I commit to something, you know, say something I can't deliver on. So, you know, the insurance stuff, the golf course staff sticking around even when it's rent, you know, little things like that. I'm trying to think through everything, and I will tell you if I miss something, so we're going to rely heavily on the staff. So I want to put a vehicle in there just to discuss things going forward too. Friday's going to be a big day with the charter review, so I get it. At the same time, I don't want to commit to something I can't deliver on right now.
Yeah, I wasn't looking for a commitment. I just, if you had any ideas, and to be honest, until I saw that deed and saw what I believe there were no restrictions, and because Mr. Reeves had indicated he thought there were some prohibitions, and turns out when I actually read it, I didn't see any, and there was some positive stuff. So, and I know with the problems of that 3%, I'm hoping that maybe they come together and can be mutually beneficial exploration anyway. So thank you for your time. Look forward to working with you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Brown.
Yes, earlier Chief Beige, you had mentioned about little to no way to enforce the waterway. So I just want to say, if I'm interested in enforcing the waterway and different ways that you can come up with that you can bring back to us, that'd be great. That's all I got.
Thank you, sir. Councilwoman DeBerry.
Yes. We had tournaments in the Preston Hood Sports Complex. Approximately 270 feet. We had some heavy sluggers. And you know how it feels to get hit.
Sure.
I saw the bruise on your,
Yeah, that's right.
on your arm.
Yes, ma'am.
I was injured. I don't know if this council remembers or not.
I do.
Rotator cuff tears and everything else. I didn't sue the city. I asked for safety netting. We got extra safety netting, but let me tell you, they're building, or we're growing big 13-year-old kids. My neighbor, who's in the ICU right now, not because he was hit, but for other reasons, he had 2 balls in his yard also. And we were both in our yards whenever the balls come flying in. And I'm letting you know, we need to do something. I don't know what, if we need to put screening over the whole neighborhood or what, but my other neighbors on Bishop. Yeah. So, but anyway, I just need to let you know about that. And then there was something else I had here too. Oh, the easement on between Martisa and Bishop. Are we going to ever finish it? As far as putting the new cement, removing the old clay piping in it and putting in that new cement. We've been sitting here waiting. The neighbors are just up in arms because that orange rubbery fence, or just letting it, they had to take their fences down. Apparently it was on the easement, so they were removed. So now their animals are eating up that orange fence, rubber fence. So what can we do? Anything?
From what I understand, I think they mobilized back out there today.
Oh, they did?
Yeah, supposedly that was just through email. I didn't drive by there this afternoon. But,
I drove by and there was no more movement.
Right. Well, they're supposed to be there on that side. Project will go. I mean, it was demoed, cleared out. You know, sometimes the weather gets, you know, in the way of things too. But as far as the fencing, if there's this particular address or all, or people with pets or animals, you know, we definitely encourage them to reach out to our streets and stormwater supervisor or me, so we can make sure maybe a temporary chain link or something is better suited.
They're reaching out to me, so I can get the addresses or their phone numbers.
If you'd like to get in the middle of it, that's great.
No, I don't want to get in the middle of it. I'll
There's-
send it to you, and but they're going to come back to me if you don't
Right.
answer.
Well, yeah, you can get with Jason and we can go through that way and do that as well. Yeah.
Thank you. That's all.
Thank you, ma'am. Councilman Jeter.
I'd like to echo a few things that were said up here. One, like Councilmember Merrill said, I don't know if you were here earlier for the first meeting, Daniel, but just talking about some different options for underneath the bridge, one way, the other way, this way. I know they're getting ready to shut it down quite a bit, but he was just searching for options for traffic flow. I thought he said something really great. If it didn't go the one way that it does, it would stop a lot of the complaints we have from that neighborhood, because it would just be no way to get around it. That could be, we've tried a lot of options, but if that's one, it's obviously not. You're getting ready to tell me?
So, I'm sure people will love this, but when the first traffic control plan came out, it was the way that you and Ben, or Mr. Merrill, were just mentioned.
Yeah.
And the concern was, hey, now we're prohibiting people from coming into downtown, right? I don't know which is the right answer to that. I know that it was very passionate on both sides. We felt like on the business impact side, you know, it's easier to get people in and have that argument as opposed to having it tougher to get in, but easier to get out. So
Is it something we can control and play with the valve? Is it a 30-day thing that we
you know,
can try and learn on our own?
We can. It's not our job site, right? Like
Yeah.
we obviously, Superior and the DOT team have been responsive to us. Like we're the ones that changed that. We talk to them daily, weekly basis on that side. Going back to them is not anything I don't feel uncomfortable with. I just remember the discussions that we had that were kind of very concerned with the downtown business owners coming in.
Right.
You know, not, you know.
And I don't want to put any extra work on anybody. If it was going to be done in 4 to 6 months, no big deal, but we're probably still a few more years. So it may just be, other options may be worth visiting, that's all.
Yeah.
And while
I'm
we're,
open to anything that you want to pass on and me and
Yeah,
Jason can
is
sit
it
down with them.
worth doing a pilot for a month to see if we can flip it, to see what the impact is? I mean, I hate to put a lot of work on them, but maybe the season is heavier now in that area. I don't know the traffic pattern, so.
No, yeah.
Yeah, and there's neighbors that complain because it backs up.
Because of, or take it offline.
If we could collaborate and put all our heads together and come up with something, I love the pilot program, try it if we can, we'll see. And while we're on the same bridge subject too, talking about parking, as brought up earlier, I've talked to some people on the county side. I guess some of the renderings we've seen with the bridge have these like beautiful parks underneath of them that have more parking, just like we used to have there. And then I've heard, well, that was kind of just the rendering. Those aren't really finalized, so it'd be cool to reach back out to them and make sure if that's going to be on us or on them, because I know on the county, on the island side, there's a beautiful park that was circulating underneath the bridge, and now it's kind of like, well, we don't know if that's going to be that or not. So we might want to double check on our side and make sure that's just, again, back to the parking issue. Second, what Council Member Browning said, if we need a boat to get out there and take care of some of these other derelict vessels, that would be wonderful if we could make that happen. And then I know we talked about an update earlier on the South Rec Center expansion. We kind of briefly talked about the landing, that parking is moving. Also Library Park, if we could maybe revisit that. I don't know where the ball got dropped. I know we were doing some insurance stuff and Derek's not here tonight, but you don't have to elaborate if you don't want to. Let's just make sure we pick that ball back up and see if we can take it across the finish line for Library Park.
I'll look to the city manager, I'll get with him and bring him up to speed. He's got a lot on his plate, so maybe this week I'll bring him up to speed or next week.
We had a list when we met a week or so ago, and I'm going to hold that list for a little bit until you get caught up, because there's a lot going on, and I totally get it. And then last thing is the police department budget. I've had a lot of people ask me about how that, with DeSantis passing a few years back, not being able to raise or lower that budget, how that's going to affect us going forward, whatever should come about from the amendment or committee. So if you could bring that to the next meeting as well, your thoughts on that and how.
What are you asking exactly?
Remember years ago when DeSantis said a police department's budget can never decrease?
Correct, yes.
So how's that going to affect us going forward? Should any of these?
About the budgeting process?
Correct.
Does it need to be? I can come back with an opinion at that, but I do know, so the version that was passed in 21, I haven't looked at it in a while, but I know they amended it in 23, I believe. At 21, I would have been able to flexibly tell you that y'all can't touch y'all can't apply the current amendment to the 21 version of the statute, because that just preempted cities from reducing any police department budgets without any challenge. That was too draconian, obviously, because cities should have the right to be able to reduce police department budgets in some situations. So they did go back and they amended it. I never looked at the amended version. I know they put some percentages in there, and they might change some other language. I will need to look at that. And you want to kind of know how it would impact and interact with the charter amendment? Is that kind of
correct? Or if it needs to be removed completely and isolated by itself, or how that's. You elaborate on that next meeting, that'd be great. And then last is golf course. I know tonight was supposed to be some golf course stuff on there from Jacob, doing wonderful and great things out there. I think it's got moved to next meeting. Is that correct? On the 24th, to bring forward some of the great numbers you got going on out there and some of the profit and how we're going to use it to future invest in some of the TrackMan technology and all that. So I look forward to that on the 24th meeting. And I'm with Councilman Walker. Thank you for all the communication. That pages of data and information and grouping us all together. We're not used to that, and we really, I know I personally enjoy it, even though I may not elaborate back as much as you send us. I do read it, I do get it, and it's wonderful. So thank you, keep doing that. That's all.
Thank you, sir. I would like to join the ever-growing chorus of people up here as well, Mr. Davis, that really appreciated that kind of communication. I thought it was fantastic. I sat there and read every single word you wrote, whether it's a brain dump or a formal letter. I don't care the form. The information was really fantastic and really great to keep me and everyone else aware. Wanted to bring up just two quick things. One, a friend of mine who has a kid the same age as my oldest kid, his son rides his bike to the bus stop or was riding his bike to the bus stop, and then his dad would basically have to like drive by right after that and pick the bike up and put it in the bed of his truck so that no one stole his bike. And he just suggested, hey, you know, there's a lot of bus stops within the city limits, especially those that are like at parks. Wouldn't it be a good idea to just put the very basic, cheapest, smallest bike rack at those parks near those bus stops, so that if you wanted to encourage kids that are able to ride their bicycle to the bus stop, you know, you're not only relieving the burden of the kid, but, you know, here's the parents not having to drive the kid to the bus stop or worry about if he's walked there safely. So if that's something that could be just even investigated or looked into just within our city limits, that would be great. I know obviously the school board would handle anything that was outside. I also wanted to sincerely thank all of the mayors around, mayor from Mary Esther, Niceville, former Mayor Reinierson, our Mayor Emeritus, was also with me. We all went out and visited the 919th and Colonel Scott Hurlbrink at Hurlburt Field. It was a fantastic thing. Got to go inside the simulator of the AC-130J, which is the new configuration of the gunship. We got to sit inside the simulator and they kind of show you what's going on. Thank God there's people that can read all those screens and know all what that means, man, because it is intense. And then you got to see how they load up the gunship with the giant rounds and the small rounds. It's a very impressive undertaking. And everybody was so kind to all of us to allow us out there on the base to visit. So it's a really, really nice situation. Anybody else have anything else they want to add? Forgot to say? Yeah, Mr. Browning.
Mr. Burns, when you're looking into the police situation, can you look and see if there's anything with the fire department as well?
Yeah, sure. I'll do that.
All right. I'm glad I asked then. Nice. Anybody else? Seeing none? We are